Have you ever wondered what would happen if you decided to step away? Not out of hatred, not out of resentment, but simply out of the need to be with yourself. Most people don't understand this, but distance has a strange, almost unsettling power. It's as if moving out of their orbit breaks a delicate balance. It's not just about missing you, it goes far beyond that. It's something darker, deeper, something that touches their most sensitive fibers. Because when you decide to step away, you don't just leave an empty space, you leave a void. And voids are always uncomfortable, not because of what's missing, but because of what they reveal. And here we arrive at the first great, uncomfortable truth of this journey. The void you leave behind is not truly empty. It's filled with an echo, a powerful, resonating echo of everything they refuse to see in themselves. It is the sound of their own inner world, which had been blissfully silent for so long. Because you were absorbing all the noise. The great psychologist Carl Jung gave a name to this vast, unacknowledged territory within us. He called it the shadow. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Carl Jung. The shadow is the unknown, dark side of our personality. It's a collection of everything we deny in ourselves, our insecurities, our repressed desires, our vulnerabilities, our secret shames. For many of us, the weight of this shadow is too much to bear alone. So, unconsciously, we seek out others to carry it for us. Think about it. You weren't just a partner, a friend, or a family member in their life. You were, in a very real psychological sense, the keeper of their shadow. You held the parts of them they couldn't, or simply wouldn't acknowledge. Your patience held their impatience. Your strength held their weakness. Your calm held their chaos. So when you decide to walk away, you're not just removing your presence. You are, in effect, handing their shadow back to them. You are forcing a confrontation they may have spent a lifetime, or several lifetimes, expertly avoiding. Your departure doesn't just leave a hole in their life. It illuminates the dense, black matter of their unexamined soul, and they are left blinking in its terrifying, unfamiliar light. This brings us to the second great truth. You weren't just a mirror. A mirror is passive. It simply reflects what is already there. But your role in their life was far more active, far more complex. You were not a mirror. You were a canvas, a living surface upon which they painted their soul's most intricate masterpiece of projection. Carl Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the unconscious, idealized image of the feminine within a man's psyche and the masculine within a woman's. These inner soul images are archetypes. They are the blueprint of our unconscious longing for wholeness and completion. For the person you left behind, you became the living embodiment of this projection. They didn't fall in love with you. They fell in love with how perfectly you fit the shape of their missing piece. They saw in your eyes not your soul, but their own inner longing for salvation. You were the hero who could slay their dragons, the goddess who could soothe their storms, the unshakable rock upon which they could build a temple of identity. You were not a person, you were a function. You were the solution to an equation written in their psyche long before they ever met you. And so, when you walked away, it wasn't just the loss of a relationship. To them, it felt like an apocalypse. The god they had constructed, using you as the raw material, died. The pantheon of their inner world lay in ruins. The temple they built on your presence now collapsed into dust. And the pain they feel isn't the clean pain of love lost. It's the jagged, soul-shattering pain of deicide. The pain of realizing that the deity they worshipped was just a reflection of their own unmet needs. This is why their initial reactions can be so confusing, so volatile. They're not reacting to what you did. They are reacting to what your absence forced them to see. And here again, Carl Jung offers us a golden compass. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Their irritation, their rage, their resentment, these are not signs of love. They are symptoms of a confrontation they never asked for. If they have the courage to follow the golden thread of those feelings, they will arrive at a sacred destination, the unadorned, uncomfortable truth of their own self. And this journey back to the self, this painful, reluctant return, is never easy. It unfolds in stages, each one more difficult than the last, each one a kind of emotional alchemy. When you step away, you plunge them into a crucible, a sacred fire that melts illusions, burns ego, and forges transformation. The first stage is what I call the leaden calm. This is the stage of denial, of numbness. On the surface, they may seem unaffected, detached, even cold. They might say, "It's temporary." They'll come back. They're just confused. They may continue to post smiling photos, keep their routine, speak of you with performative confidence. But underneath, there's a growing weight, the leaden weight of your absence. They try to carry on with the illusion that the reality they built around you hasn't been shattered, that they are still in control, that everything is fine. But this is the most fragile illusion of all. It's the illusion Carl Jung warned us about when he said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. This calm? It's absurd. It's like pretending a hurricane is just a gentle breeze. But storms cannot be ignored forever. Eventually, the silence breaks, the mask cracks, and what follows is the fiery turmoil, a stage of rage, projection, and emotional chaos. Now you're no longer seen as the person they loved. You become the villain in their rewritten story. You are selfish. You are unstable. You are a narcissist. You are cold. You are broken. They dissect your character, assassinate your motives, broadcast their pain as proof of your betrayal. Why? Because anger is easier than grief. Because blame is easier than accountability. Because labeling you a monster is easier than facing the truth. I was so dependent on this person that without them, I don't know who I am. Their anger is a shield, a defense mechanism, a primal scream for control. And here again, Carl Jung's words guide us. Where love rules, there is no will to power. And where power predominates, love is lacking. Their rage is not proof of their love for you. It's proof of the power you held in their life, a power they never wanted to admit until it was gone. Eventually, even the fiercest fire burns itself out. And in the ash, something new begins to emerge. The watery dissolution. This is the stage of grief. But let's ask the real question here. What exactly are they grieving? It's not you, not the real, complex, beautifully flawed human being. They're grieving the idea of you, the fantasy, the projection, the false god. Suddenly you are idealized, the only one who, quote, ever understood them. Every memory becomes golden. Every moment becomes sacred. Every flaw forgotten. This nostalgia is a drug. It numbs the pain of introspection. It allows them to drown in what-ifs instead of facing what is. But eventually, even this illusion fades. And that brings us to the final stage of the crucible, the earthly reckoning. The rage is gone. The grief has dried. The narratives of blame and romanticism have all collapsed. And now, they are left with one thing: themselves. There is no longer your voice to distract them, no longer your presence to stabilize them. There is only the deafening hum of their own existence. They must now learn how to comfort themselves on a cold night, how to validate their worth without applause, how to find courage without a savior, how to become the source of their own emotional supply. And for someone who has spent a lifetime outsourcing their identity, that is the most terrifying work of all. Because in the end, the void they feared never was you leaving. It was the emptiness inside themselves they never learned how to fill. And while all of this is unfolding, this fire, this grief, this reckoning, another quiet, haunting phenomenon begins. They become obsessive archaeologists of the past. They sift through the ruins of your relationship, not to understand, but to gather evidence. They reread old text messages, searching not for connection, but for subtext. That casual, "I'm tired" from 2 years ago, proof that you were always distant. That offhand joke you made, now interpreted as emotional cruelty. Every word, every glance, every silence, now twisted into confirmation of one thing: their story. They're not trying to find the truth. They're trying to fortify a narrative that helps them cope. And the most tragic part? You, the real you, are gone. What remains is a ghost, a projection, a memory they are actively rewriting to fit the pain they now feel. You've become a mirror in which they see not you, but their wounds. And they'll say things like, "It was fate. It wasn't meant to be. I always have bad luck with love. I knew they'd leave me." They'll give it any name they can because the alternative is unthinkable. And what is the alternative? That this pain, this loss, this devastation is the direct result of their own unexamined life. And once again, Jung's timeless insight echoes in this silence. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. But now, I want to shift the focus. We've spent long enough on them. Let's turn the mirror around. Let's talk about you. Because your act of stepping away, the very thing that caused such chaos in their world, was not an act of cruelty. It was not abandonment. It was not coldness. From a psychological perspective, it was one of the bravest things a human being can do. It was an act of individuation. Carl Jung used this term to describe the sacred, lifelong process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished, but whole. It's the journey of shedding the projections others cast upon you, the journey of reclaiming your own shadow, the journey of integrating all the fractured pieces of your psyche into a single, authentic self. For a time, you played the role they handed you. You were the mirror, the healer, the stabilizer, the function. But eventually, something shifted inside. A quiet, persistent voice began to whisper, "This is not me. There is more to me than this role. I must discover who I am beyond this dynamic." And so you listened. Your decision to step away was the moment you finally answered that call. And though it may have been misunderstood, even demonized, it was, in truth, an act of profound self-respect. You chose the terrifying uncertainty of wholeness over the comfortable familiarity of being a fragment in someone else's story. You chose your own soul, and that choice, that sacred, quiet choice, that is the beginning of transformation. And here's where I want to pause for a moment to speak directly to you. If you've listened this far, I know this resonates on some level. Maybe you've stepped away from someone. Maybe you've felt something crumble because of your decision. Or maybe someone stepped away from you, and you're trying to understand why. Whatever your situation, ask yourself, how much of your inner peace still depends on others? And how much are you willing to let go to truly find that peace? And if this has stirred something in you, if you feel like this journey mirrors your own, then I invite you to pause and write this in the comments. The void doesn't define me. It frees me. Write it, not for me, but for yourself. As a quiet revolution. As a declaration of awakening. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel, because here we talk about what others avoid. The things that are uncomfortable but transformative. But don't leave just yet. Because there's one final, profound truth I want you to understand. A truth that reframes this entire experience. Your decision to step away, born from your own desperate need to grow, to breathe, to individuate, was, in the end, an unwitting gift to them. Yes, a gift. You gave them something they never would have chosen for themselves. A crisis. And a crisis, as Jung saw it, is not just destruction. It is a turning point, a portal. By removing the canvas, you force them to stop projecting and start introspecting. By taking away the crutch, you gave them the terrifying but liberating opportunity to walk on their own. Yes, it's a painful gift, wrapped in grief, tied with ribbons of anger. But beneath it all, it is a gift of potential freedom, the possibility to meet their own shadow, to reclaim their own lost fragments, to finally begin their own sacred journey of individuation. And that leads us to the very heart of all true psychological and spiritual growth. The final insight from Carl Jung that illuminates everything you've just heard. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. By stepping away, you didn't just walk toward your own light. You pulled the darkness out of hiding. You made it visible, both in them and in yourself. You revealed the unspoken dependencies. You disrupted the quiet addictions to being needed, validated, admired. You tore the veil off the illusion of emotional safety. And it is only there, in that sacred, shared, conscious darkness, that true healing, true strength, and true transformation can begin. So if you've come this far, know this. This isn't just the end of a chapter. It is the beginning of a different kind of story, one in which you are no longer a role someone wrote for you. You are the author now, the center, the self. And in that place, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you the same way again.